Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Garage Bouillon and to another episode on my flood damaged Porsche 968 Cabrio. As you can see in my garage, my collection of seats are growing, but also the collection of parts on the floor is growing incredibly much. Everywhere I walk, I have something that's waiting to go back into the car, and even in the back of my 924, you can see I've got a whole bunch of cleaned up interior parts. So it's getting a bit difficult to work in the garage. And that means I really need to get finished on this interior work because I still have an exhaust to fix on this guy. But before I do that, I want to just get this reasonably buttoned up on the interior. And in the previous episode, I showed you guys all the cleaning work I've been doing. The car is now mostly clean. I've even gone into all of these plugs. As you can see, the HVAC is clean. Even on the inside, it's clean. This has been an immense amount of work, but I'm now at a point where I am ready to start almost reassembling the interior of the car. So the first thing we're going to be doing today is to just focus on removing the remainder of the closed cell foam that's sitting on the tunnel here. And I also want to remove the gear lever from the shaft that goes to the gearbox. And I'm doing that so that I can pull out the foam that's underneath there. Because as you remember in the previous episode, there was some animal that had its nest in there. So that needs to be replaced. Once that is done, I need to make a decision on whether I put back the carpets first or whether I put back the dashboard first. Both of these things comes with its own complications, but we'll deal with them as we get to them. So for now, I would say sit back, relax, and let's start working. Alright, so this is out of the car. It wasn't actually too difficult. I suspect putting the new one in will be a tad more difficult, but it's out and it's worn. So it's good that I'm replacing this. This one is not wet like the other carpets were, so this is actually dry, which is a good sign, which means I'm not expecting any real problems on the torque tube over there. I'm going to throw this in the bin and then we can start on the next job, and that's going to be me taking you through what I'm going to do with the wiring. So what we are looking at here is the wiring harness, this one and this one, for the factory amplifier, and then this goes back over here and splits into many other wires that we will be using for the radio. Initially my plan was to install a Symphony RDS into this car. I wanted it to be original, but then after looking at the prices, I'm just not prepared to spend that kind of money on them. They go for a minimum of 500 euros upwards to about 1,000 if you want a really nice one. And to me, it's not worth it. I almost never listen to music in the car. So I've decided to go for the next best thing, and that is this guy, which is a modern interpretation of it. So it's the Bremen SQR46 DAB, which means this is a digital radio. But what that also means is that the interface for this radio at the back is completely different to what was in the factory 30 years ago. So that means I need to make a plan, and I have been pondering this for at least 2 weeks. I was considering, can I hook this up to the original amplifiers? Can I maybe splice these wires? Can I maybe open this up so it accepts the modern kind of inputs that we have today? But I also looked at what the previous owner did or had done to this car. And as you can see, after I cleaned off the mud, this harness has been massacred. It's not original anymore, which means I don't have to be precious about it. So what I'm going to be doing is I am going to remove this sub harness here, which is basically all just to drive the amplifiers. So the good news about this wiring harness is that even if I took it out of the car now, I can always put it back later, because this part of the floor is not stuck onto the bottom of the car. This is actually a mat that just lies freely on top of the floorboards. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to put them in a safe place so that maybe one day if I feel like splurging on an RDS for some or other reason, I will be able to put it back. But the reason I'm doing this now is because I would like to test all of these things on the dashboard, but I can't really sit in this car because even though it's clean, it's still sticky from the glue. This glue is insanely potent. So what I want to do is I want to actually start putting back the carpets, and if I got the carpet back in, I can get the seats in, and that means I can sit on a seat while I do this dashboard and do the testing of all this equipment. So without any further ado, I think let's pull this cable, and then we can start putting in the new sound deadening and the carpets. Alright, so after a bit of fiddling, you see I've ended up pulling out this harness, which is the one going to both sides of the car. That's the left, that's the right, and this is the power and the ground and the outputs for the audio. And the other cable is this guy, which is the signal cable. This sits at the back of the RDA Symphony, splits off into the two, each one of them feeding an amp. So with this out of the car, it means that the floor of the car is ready to accept the carpets. So I'm going to unbox the new sound deadening that has arrived this week. And let me also talk you through some of the challenges we have with the 968. And that is that a lot of the sound deadening is no longer available. The stuff you see there, I didn't pull out of the car because it was mostly clean and not available. The stuff over there, mostly clean, not available. The sound deadening that sits there, no longer available. The sound deadening that sits here and there, no longer available. The sound deadening that sits there and there, no longer available. So the only sound deadening you could still buy for the 968 was this one that I bought new, and the one that sits at the front of the tunnel. I didn't remove that one because the HVAC is still in the car, and like I said, that's a disaster to take out. So I cleaned as much as I can at the bottom of this sound deadening mat. I think it's clean, it doesn't smell, which is a good sign. So I think it's time for us to start prepping this area to accept the new sound deadening mat. Nice. All right, and there we go. This is a brand new sound deadening mat direct from Porsche. This wasn't too expensive even. I think it was €80 or something like that, which is a lot of money for a piece of foam, obviously. But in the Porsche world, this is actually fairly decent pricing. And I'm just checking. I see the two holes here that matches the two there. And then you've got the hole for the gearbox. And then you see I've got two more holes there that goes on two holes that sits there. And then a big one back there for a drain plug for the HVACs. So I'm going to put this aside again. I'm just going to do one more clean here. And then I need to start gluing both of the surfaces with 3M glue. And then I hope that I get this on first time right, which is going to be a tough one. But I think I might get my wife to help me with this one. Another thing I want to tackle before I start installing the carpets is I want to fix this wiring harness. You can see obviously with all the feet and stuff stepping into this car over the year, the cloth has disintegrated. So I'm going to disconnect it from the car over there, and there's another one there and a third one down there, just 3 screws that bolts into the car. That should allow me to free up this wiring harness enough for me to retape it. This side is all good, it's just where it goes onto the floor that it's kind of disintegrated, so I'll be taping that up again. Now the only thing that remains is to put these clips back that I've cleaned and screw the harness back onto the body. Alright, so I've got this cable now nicely tucked into its position. Again, I've got the plug fed through the hole where it needs to sit. So this is all looking good. But I am discovering a couple of more spots of dirt that I want you to just clean up. You can see I've got a bunch of stuff that's just everywhere. It's not bad anymore. It's just not to my standard. So I want to just go in there once more and wipe it down and wash wherever I can, so that when I reassemble this car, I know that there's no more silt left inside the car. So that means I'm going to wait for this a couple of more days, but it really is at this point a couple of more days. So in the next video, I will be sticking down the sound deadening, and I will be putting back the carpets throughout the whole of the car and even put in the back bench. But as it's already 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening, I think it's time for me to lay down my tools and start preparing for my work week. So if you've watched this far in the video, I would like to thank you very much for supporting my channel. It really does mean a lot to me. And I know that this is tedious work and it's not all that exciting, but I want to show you all the work that goes into restoring a flood damaged car. And if I was to cover over all of this work I'm doing on the interior, I wouldn't be honest to you, and I wouldn't be giving you a proper reflection of how much work it takes to get a car like this back on the road. So thank you again for watching. And if you are not yet subscribed to my channel and you like this kind of content, please remember to subscribe and you will be notified of my next video, which will be coming out very shortly. Until next time, guys, goodbye.